Hi everyone, we're doing a little drive today. Drive like a driving instructor. It's been a little while since I've done one of these. I've got to head over to Warrington. I've got to pick something up. It's nothing to do with work. It's actually a toilet seat. But I'm going to head over to Warrington. I've got to go near IKEA. I'm not going to go on the motorway. I'm going to go and do as many roundabouts as I possibly can, because people do have issues with signals at roundabouts. I'm not just going to concentrate on that. I'm going to concentrate on other people's signals as well, and how to communicate with just these little flashy orange lights. Here, people often ask, why don't you treat this like a right turn and put a right signal? Effectively, it is a right turn. It's because that signal, if I was to signal right, may make people think that I'm pulling in there on the right hand side. No indication here. I do not need to flash. I'm clearly communicating with this other driver that I'm letting them go, and they knew straight away. So this is sort of linked to the people who signal for everything, and they don't really have the skill of communicating. I'm telling the oncoming vehicles really early that I'm turning. That allows them to have a free route if they're turning right, so it allows flow. But going back to a video that I did a couple of years back now, where I drove all the way home from other end of the, well, not the other end of the city, I think I was up in West Derby area, and I drove all the way home without signalling, and people didn't get that. So I'm not going to go that extreme. I don't want to trigger people, the silly ones who think that I say signal isn't appropriate and you shouldn't. Yes, you should. Here, although it was safe for me to go there, I was still communicating to people in case, particularly the one behind, was thinking of overtaking. Here, it's a given to go back. So I'm checking, I've already communicated to people because I put my left wheel on the line that I'm going back in. If I had have signalled to move back in there, there's a misread potentially with the vehicles coming out of the junction. So remember, a good signal should only ever have one meaning. I'll go into a few other signals as well. There's no one directly behind, so I've got no reason to use my brakes particularly early. I was potentially going to let the van out if it had a free route to the right hand side, but with this Peugeot to my right catching me up, it wouldn't have been something that I would have purposefully done. I would have kept positive with my car and really showed the van to the left hand side that I was going, and it could pull out. I am just going to have a little right signal here. A couple of reasons. I don't often signal to go round parked cars. I generally think that in a car you don't need to, but it depends on what is happening around. What we had there was a tightly packed group of vehicles, and especially with the bin wagon being so close and trying to push down the left hand side, and see the distance that they were there to the left. He's just closed the space down on that van, so you're going to move out to the right now. What a terrible driver. Space closing bin wagon driver. Sefton Council, you need to have a word with that driver. VN21RXP, and the date, it's Valentine's Day, 14th of February, and the time is 4 minutes past 12. Sefton Council, find out who was in that van, lorry. Call vans everything, or call every vehicle a van recently, but find out who was in that lorry and just have a quiet word with them, because that's terrible. Look how far ahead it's actually got them. Useless. Okay, my sat nav is sending me on the motorway. I'm not going to go on the motorway. I'm going to make my way up through Kirby. There's plenty of roundabouts that we can have a little look at there. I think I'll then make my way through Knowsley Village, through the back end of St Helens up to Warrington, because then it's roundabout, 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 and that's really what I want to cover today. And to all you potential driving instructors or driving instructors who do sign up for a membership to my channel, and thank you very much for your support, try and make sure that you always pick your route that does very little to deviate away from your goals. What I mean by that is, if you think about what I'm doing today, there's still an element of the ADI training within this. I would like to talk about and concentrate and teach about roundabouts. So you think on what I'm doing, I'm picking my route to not have other distractions. We don't want other things going on, so I deviate away from the message that I want to get across. And it's exactly the same thought process that you should be picking the route that you are picking for your pupil to deal with the particular problem you're dealing with. Okay, bus is parking in, nice signal from the bus, very good, nice and early. I've got an opportunity to go around, don't think I'm going to bother. Bus stop was free and clear, just backed off, no issues. Have not got my roof box on today, so people will probably assume I'm going to be driving this bright green Focus ST in a different manner. But it's probably the nicest, calmest driven Focus ST in the country. Saying that, there is another instructor who's recently got in touch, who's just bought exactly the same car. How are you finding it if you're tuning in? Is it bad on fuel as mine is? In any case, it helps you stand out. We're going to have a little go at the first roundabout. Okay, I'm going ahead. I'd just like to have a little talk about the numbers of exits as well, because people get this wrong massively. They think that first and second junctions you do from the left lane, third and fourth or whatever you do from the right. It's not the case. It's the direction of travel. So here, straight on, there's no other markings on the road. Assume that you can do it from the left hand side. That's what it is. Doesn't matter whether it's the fifth exit ahead. No odds. So no signal. People think you've got to signal right to steer right. I had a conversation with one of my long-term viewers who's terrible at signals, by the way. You know who you are. It was about a different junction. The signal here doesn't help anyone behind because there's no one there, but it may just reinforce to the vehicles to the right-hand side that I'm heading off. That was its only benefit there. The traffic from the opposite direction was traffic light controlled, so it was no real benefit to them where I was going. So the only people that signal benefited were the people to my right-hand side. It categorically shows them I'm not going further round. I haven't got my directions wrong. Okay, so yeah, I had a conversation with a particular viewer, and it was at a crossroads near Norris Green Test Centre. It's sort of like across a dual carriageway, a little steer to the right and then a left, and they said I should be putting a right signal on. Absolutely categorically no, because of the same reason why you don't right signal to go ahead at a roundabout. Because the right signal shows people coming out of that opposite side, an opposite road, that you're going around in front of them, where you're not. Okay, should I overtake? I can't be bothered. If I was going to overtake though, a signal would be necessary to perform the overtake. Absolutely. Signal in a number of ways. You check your position for your best view, you possibly select a lower gear if required, then you make your decision whether it's safe, legal and worth it, and you then apply a mirror signal manoeuvre routine to go round, checking your mirrors, consider a flash of the lights. Brilliant signal in that situation. If people get triggered because you're flashing your lights, they have no clue you're doing things correctly. And then a signal to go round. Here, again, straight on a roundabout, don't need to signal. Let's have a little think about who this signal actually helps. People come round to the right. The white Fiesta that's passing in front of me had a nice right signal on, so I knew it was coming round. And I've set my steer, check, signal. Doesn't really help people behind, doesn't really help people ahead. It may have helped pedestrians crossing, You could, in that scenario, have got away without it. To be at that particular level, though, it requires massively higher observations. That's why we're always saying signal if required, because it increases your observation skills. When am I going to right signal for this right turn? I'm not going to go on the markings. I'm staying straight, but I'm just going to. It doesn't really matter. Van's gone that way. That one in front's gone that way. Didn't really matter, but it still helps vehicles from the opposite side know where I'm going. And I hear this as well, and I hear this from the so-called, as I always call them, advanced motoring organisations. You're in the right turning lane. You don't need to signal. Sorry, bullshit. Absolute bullshit. The people from the opposite direction cannot tell. A lot of the time, they might be able to tell here with the position of this lane, but they can't necessarily tell that this lane is a right turning lane only. So instantly, with the vehicles coming the other direction, the Skoda and the Focus and the white Audi, they know who they are dealing with, and it's the Nissan Juke. So for example, that right turning lane is pointed at this area. That right turning lane, although you should go right from that right turning lane, it is only advice, believe it or not. It's not illegal to go straight on. So I've now got to question whether that one's turning right. They've just told me. But if they had have had that right signal on, even though that they were in a right turning lane, it would have stopped my delay. Hope you followed that. So I'd still signal right if I was turning right there, without question. Helps pedestrians, helps people into that exit road. And there's too much of people talking from, again, the advanced organisations. Don't have to signal, don't have to signal. There's too much emphasis on not having to signal. If a signal's put on and it's not misleading, fine. No problem whatsoever. Why not have an extra form of communication? Yes, be stingy with them. Put them on when you absolutely need to. And make sure you don't mislead. Remember, a good signal should only ever mean one thing. But don't ever worry about not putting them on. Or, sorry, putting them on when you maybe could have got away with not putting them on. All right, we've got another few roundabouts a bit further up. It's still sending me, trying to get me back on the motorway. Not doing that. Let's have a little look at a few other people's signals around. Let's see what they're like. People do rely on them way too much. See whether you can get an idea of where people are going regardless of signal. The learner vehicle, the blue one a bit further up, has just moved back to the left lane. They're not signalling, pretty obviously going ahead. Where's the Jag going? It's taking the middle lane of 3. It's going ahead. This one in front, no signal, pretty much going ahead. I was just beware of the fellow with the coffee on the bike there. It didn't. Took a pretty poor position. So your positioning shows people a lot. In effect there, what I could have done, just give the fella plenty of room going round. No reason to hold back and stop for him. He was going to clear. I slowed to fix that problem. But that last roundabout just proves people's position is just as important. Here, do you watch signals? Not going to go. Could have gone there, but I'm not going to go. I'm just going to have a little talk. I don't know. Hopefully you can see people with this camera here. Even, right, there's a big obvious gap, so I've got to take it. There's a few people around. But what I'm getting at, people do stare at signals. But because people signal so terribly, that then is so unreliable in your choice on getting out. I'm going to overtake. Notice the signal there was on for a number of seconds before I actually moved, and this is a common problem I'm forever dealing with potential instructors. just mindful of where I want to be with this lorry. You all know about pocket of space. So I'm 41 on my speedo just to get past, just so I'm beyond. I'm now in a nice little pocket. I am going to signal to come back in because it then gives the lorry driver a little bit more time, knowing that I'm slowing down in front of them. They've got less room to do their braking. I'm not going to signal whatsoever here. There was no pedestrians. The van towing trailer nowhere near, so lorry behind didn't affect him. It was me flowing through at the roundabout. So that's the sort of time where you can get away with it, but it's also the time to say, if I did put one on there, wouldn't be an issue. But try and find the time where you actually don't need it for certain, because that forces the observations to be a little bit higher. This slightly off to the right, it's not a right turn. It's a continuation of the road. Could the right lane go left? No. So therefore the left lane can continue round the back of this roundabout, and my left signal helps this van driver not have to slow and flow straight out. Perfect. Okay, all good. I am going to go ahead at the next junction. There's a few roundabouts a little bit further up. So, go through Knowsley Village and then take it from there. It's still trying to send me back to the motorway, but I'm not going that way. Like I said, roundabouts. Lorry driver was late seeing, pretty obviously, on where he was going. Poor planning. However, they've probably just pulled out and they've been doing other stuff and the mind's on a different thing. Maybe they just loaded the lorry, they're thinking on where they're going. The push to schedule all the time. Notice me staying in the pocket just made that an absolute nothing. Now, it is a 50 limit. I am going to get on with things. However, just like you to appreciate the distance of the vehicle behind. This also affects as and when you signal, and this is the bit that people don't get. They just routinely put the signal on all the time. I am going to turn right. It is the third exit that I'm taking. Sound. Vehicle behind's good as gold now. I dropped off a little bit. Would a left signal to leave help? Might help the van behind. In the end it didn't, because the van was going in a different direction, but again goes back to the point that I was saying. Put it on if you're ever in doubt. Never an issue with putting a correctly timed signal on. Okay, what I'm going to do is just on this little section have a little talk about cruise control. There's not many roundabouts for the next little bit, so I'm just going to sidestep for a little moment. Potential driving instructors, this is a nice time as well to reflect on the work that you have just done, and then maybe re-establish responsibilities, see what type of stuff the student's doing well, see which areas of support they still are needing, and then get on with the next section. Just cancelling the cruise, just to come off it. It's better than brake lights. Press and resume. Didn't resume. Been used to a different car, sorry. I turned cruise off altogether. I was using a car the other day with cruise control in, and it was the same button that you set it was to cancel. No problems, just pressed the wrong button. Just wondering why it wasn't going back up. Going back to what it did there, when we had the vehicle that was turning in front of us, I would rather cancel cruise control rather than using my brakes, because that's a poor signal. Using your brake lights when you don't need to, when it's flowing, can cause an upset in the flow of other people around in certain scenarios. So be mindful of when you do need the brakes. A little bit different with the learner motorcycle catching us up. So I'd be more tempted now to be using the brakes in a warning, but I'd still try and see things as early as you can and maybe press cancel and just let it slow down naturally, because my vehicle slowing down is a signal in itself. What signal is this motorcyclist showing? They're getting closer. No, they're not. Drop back a little bit. Just going to accelerate. I was quite positive with my acceleration there. Reset my cruise. Drop it down a couple. So I had to be ready there. That, I think, reading what the motorcyclist was doing there, they had a little check in the mirror. They didn't signal. Don't need it a lot of the time. Lowered my cruise down a couple because this, in fact, it's off. I'm in control. This private hire driver is looking somewhere, pretty certain, or they're on the phone. Terrible position in the road. Awful. But again, read the signs. Read what's happening, read what's going on with people. Not going to think about doing an overtake. We've got a 30 limit a bit further up, but sat doing 32 miles an hour in a 40 limit. Cognitive load must be too high for that driver, weaving all over the road. My bet, phone. Can't be certain. I'm making assumptions, but you can read people. You can see how they operate their vehicles, and then you change accordingly. Resetting cruise, not a problem. It will nicely keep it up the hill to the set speed. Occasionally cruise control systems will run away with you downhill, so always be careful to cancel, use a little bit of brake. Motorcyclist has got a right signal on as well. It's holding me back quite nicely. That's okay, I've just used my brakes to correct it there. Not an issue. Motorcyclist did do their right turn pretty obviously. So is cruise control applicable now? If you had radar cruise control or active cruise control or adaptive cruise control, whatever you want to call it, yeah, it's okay, there's no issues, but you've got to pick your correct time for it. I'm not going to be using it again because there's too much I've got to adjust for. It was only that last section where I put it on. I do use it, but again, pick your time, observe, look at the scenario. If you've got too much adjustment to do, it's not the time for cruise. I tend to use a limiter a fair bit, if I was honest, because it still maxes me out at 30, 40 miles an hour, whatever you're up to, doesn't matter. But then it allows you that adjustability. Notice what I did with the one behind, because they were a little close. I slowed particularly early. Give myself a little bit more space. Why is the taxi in front just reverse lights? It's an automatic. It's a Vito AMG, by the way. 6.3 litre V8 that. Terribly timed signal. That driver, awful. No planning. A signal isn't for when you do things. It's to show people what you intend to do, so therefore it has to be before the event. I'm going to take an early position here. No need to signal round the cyclist there. No one was overtaking me. I was able to keep an eye on the lady behind in the silver Ford and literally just check and move. Notice how I got it done before the junction on the right as well. And obviously a car width for cyclists. Okay, let's have a look at other people's signals. The white one further up is turning left at the lights. Lights are more than likely going to change. Looking at the lane markings, yes, but I'm looking through the junction really, because looking through the junction you can see which direction that the actual lanes go. People spend too much time looking at the floor and they don't really pick up on what's going on and what's happening. So remember what I said, people who are in left turning only lanes, it's not illegal to go ahead from them. However, if there was a police car around you, or if there was a collision or an accident, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. Roundabout, ahead, second exit. Have a look at the signs directly in front of us. It's the main road as well, so I'm suspecting, I know it, that it's 2 lanes. So I could do this turn from the right-hand lane. Not going to. It's not overtaking anyone. If you go into that lane and you don't need to, that's a positioning fault on your driving test. Just make sure you do stay there though, and don't try and come off in a different direction. So where am I going to be with the silver one? I'm just going to hold back, a little bit wary of that one. Second exit towards St Helens. Again, I'm just aware of this one to the right. This is a flat-sided roundabout, so I could, and in fact I will, take the third exit because it's at the end of the flat sides. Let me show you this. Again, no right turn, although it's passed directly in front of me. I'm safe to go past this because that right lane shouldn't and couldn't go in there. Okay, no problems. I am going to left signal. The next junction is not traffic light control, so my left signal does again confirm to these vehicles to my right, and it also helps these vehicles to that right hand side coming out onto the roundabout know that I'm going in there. Wicked. Okay, have a look at the bus. I am going to put a signal on. I'm not going yet though. Just waiting till I was definitely through the lights before the change. People don't do that very well. Thank you. People don't do that very well because they assume that as soon as they put the signal on, they have to move. Main reason for that as well is people's grip of the steering wheel. What they tend to do is grip the wheel too tight, lock their thumb round this inside, and then steer and signal at the same point. We see that all the time. Makes the signal absolutely irrelevant. You may as well rip your indicator stalk off and throw it out the window. No, put it in a bin. But you get the point that I'm making. It's irrelevant. If you're signalling as you move, that's not the intention of those signals. They show people what we intend to do, not what we are doing. How do you signal? Do you signal in that way? People all think they're brilliant at signals. It's like everyone who thinks that they're, what was it, 80% of people think they're above average driver. How does that work? So there's a 30% of you are deluded, is what it is. Not my viewership, I would say. I think most of the people who actually watch and tune in are really conscious of what they do. And thank you for your support, by the way. If you haven't done already, just press that subscribe button. Help me get to 200,000 or 250. That's a bit of a target, that, to be fair. But as you all know, I'm not after just the numbers. I'm after numbers of people who change what they're doing due to the stuff that are put out. That's my sole reason for it. I don't need YouTube to support me financially. I do this because it's a passion of mine. Roundabout, I'm going to turn left first exit, but what does the sign actually say? It's not the little one that I'm taking. I'm going to Rainhill, Warrington and Wiston, A57. So I wouldn't signal at the minute, would I? No, because it's the second exit. It's not. They changed the roundabout but didn't change the sign. Position of that one's fine. So a left signal would have been helpful there. Could have put it on, but there was absolutely no one near me. Again, was that one of those times where I knew it wasn't going to be an issue? Yes. But that's not a go-to. That's not a given that that's going to be the case. How many? I think there's been 2. Has there been 2? Possibly been 2 roundabouts that I've not signalled off. The rest of them, I'm communicating with people around. Okay, we've still got a few more roundabouts a little bit further up. I think it's sending me directly in front now, which is the way that I want to go. Okay, people are close in front, therefore I would get less time to see what they're doing with their signals. They're going to be more reactive. The driver of the Volkswagen, you can tell that they're a bonnet watcher. All they're dealing with is that space in between themselves and the vehicle in front, and people think that's a good driver because I can react quickly. It's the worst type of driver, absolutely. Now I'm gonna go right. I am going to right signal because this one's within overtaking range of me. I'm going to cancel it so it's not a mislead. So even though it was clear there, I'm still telling people I am going to put an early right signal on. And that then allows people time to then not get caught in behind me. Totally fine joining the vehicle in the middle here. No issues with that. I'm only stopped from clearing my road with the car in the middle, not my exit road. If you don't go, the filter arrow won't come on as well, because there's often a sensor just past the lights there. Could change through. You got hit by a pigeon as well. So yeah, not much going on over the last couple of minutes, so I'll just cut that little bit. We've got a mini roundabout up at the end, so we will get back to it with that. There's a big roundabout up at the top that I would like to just have a little talk about. It's a spiral roundabout. We're going to be just talking about signals with that. Mini roundabouts, a quick talk about signals with a mini roundabout prior to arrival. Signals on the approach are still important. The signals on the approach do show people what's what. What signal am I giving to the driver of the white van? What signal am I giving without indicating to the vehicle behind? Look where my position was. Right knee was close to the centre line. I showed the white van as early as I could to up my intentions so they could keep flowing. So, mini roundabout, I am going to turn right. Right signal for a mini roundabout is important. A left signal for the first exit is important. Look at the sharpness as well. So I was just checking out the black BMW to the left. Notice I didn't signal to leave the mini one. And that is usually the case. You generally don't need to signal to leave mini roundabouts because by the time you put your left signal to leave, you're already off. It can also affect your steering. If you've got steering to do and you've got a signal to do, prioritise your steering, because if you don't signal, you'll inconvenience someone. If you don't steer, you're going to crash. Dead easy way of putting that message across. I am going to, where am I going? You're a little bit further up. I am going to go off and do the roundabout at the very end of this road. So if not much happens here, we'll cut this one as well. Just think of this though. Hopefully someone comes the other way. Please, 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 no. In any case, if they were going to come the other way, what I would have done is showed them it was probably going to be me next or not, depending on when I start moving out. So you can do so much more than these little flashy lights. That's the key to it. Long lead. Dog does look under control. But notice I don't trust anyone. Never will do. Gonna not rely on my safety, my ability to not have an accident. I'm not gonna leave it to someone else. nuts, people who do that. Seriously. And of course, I'm not going to then wait for the dog to run out, blast my horn, wave my hands in the air, have some absolutely ludicrous graphics and stuff all over the video and then post it on Twitter. I'm not going to do that either. Okay, no issues there. So it is going to send me on the motorway in a minute. I'm all right with that. I've done, I think, most of the things that I wanted to cover. I'm just going to finish it off with a spiral roundabout and signalling with this. Is this lady wishing to cross? You trying to get across? You're all right. Another near-death experience for me, slowing down and giving way to a pedestrian because there was a vehicle behind. What do you think? Everyone who thinks that, honestly, it's an embarrassment. I used the red car's right signal and a hold back to understand what they intended to do. Is this goldy colour one going to move? Not with a van, no. So again, just kept positive. Roundabout Warrington, 1, 2, 3rd junction. So, A57, I'm suspecting it's going to be this lane. Markings are terrible. But there were more than 3 markings, weren't there? Even though they were terrible. So therefore, my 3rd junction, if this left is the first one, my 3rd one had to be covered by those 3 markings. So I'm fine. Yeah, don't try and read the floor. No right signal. Eyes up. And it's this one, because that's the M62. First exit. Second exit, heads off to the 62. There was only 1 marking on that, so I knew it wasn't going to be that one. This lane has to take me towards where I wanted to go. No right signal whatsoever. All you've got to do is just be super aware of traffic around you all the time and know where people are. Sitting in the pocket is really important. Just aware of people around. And a left signal is important here, because it just shows people what I'm doing. Notice how much movement there is of people around. That spiral roundabout is particularly poorly marked. What I would do with a spiral roundabout is, if I was turning right and needing the right lane and needing a move to the right, I would signal right on the approach until I found the lane that I was in, and then I would cancel the signal and then still be tempted to put a left signal on, even if it was a left turning lane only. Like I said before, it affects and helps people this side of me. So yeah, spiral roundabouts, keep signalling right until you find your lane. Any problems? So good few little topics with that. Not sure what the Red Rowdy was doing, but anyway, good few little topics came up with that. I hope that's useful. I'm going to get my way down to where I've got to pick this toilet seat up from, and then got a couple of other things to do later on. We've got someone else on, part 2 test. As always, thanks so much for your support. If you're here to the end, I love you to bits. Keep safe. I'll see you soon. Good stop, good stop, good stop, good stop, good stop, good stop through.